Aloha, passengers, and welcome aboard the TV Pilot's License with service to the Grand Waimea Hotel of the North Shore of Hawaii. We ask that you please fasten your headphones, secure your podcasting device, and remember, we have a saying on this podcast. That's no means no, and a Bloody Mary is a perfectly acceptable breakfast food on vacation.
Welcome to the TV Pilot's License. My name is Geoff Kerbis, joined by Rich Inman and Max Singer. How are you boys doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Put your shakas up now. Get those shaka emojis ready for this episode.
Oh, Jeff, I have saved up so many TVPL frequent flyer miles. I am incredibly excited to be traveling to Hawaii with you boys today.
Well, boys, this week we are talking about a show that probably our frequent flyers have never heard of. And that is the North Shore.
That's the OC. Oh, wait.
The North Shore. Now, just to clarify really quickly, because I found out there are two shows named the North Shore. There is a British drama, and then there is this abomination that we're about to talk about from 2004.
Jeff already setting the tone.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to talk about this in more depth. But, Max, for folks who are surprised about our show choice and ready to live on those island vibes, tell us a little bit more about what this podcast is all about.
Here at TV Pilot's License, we break down and analyze the pilot episodes of some of TV's most famous, or in some cases, infamous shows. We learn a little bit more about how these shows came to be and were originally made, if they're effective pilot episodes and making us want to watch more, and if we think they can be made today. Go back and stream our old episodes from wherever you listen to podcasts. Check us out on YouTube and TikTok to see our smiling faces. And if it is your first time flying with us, we have a saying here. Welcome aboard.
That's two. Rich, what is your question of the week?
Well, we have a question here on the island, and I had to know... Do we even give away what we're doing here? Because this is like...
Nope.
Okay. Watch North Shore.
Yeah.
Yeah, go log on to YouTube and watch North Shore. I want to know, since this is obviously a nighttime soap opera about running a hotel. No, it's not Fantasy Island. But this is what... But lower your expectations a little bit. What drama would you make about the worst job you've had?
Oh, wow. Max, what drama are you making?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I've just worked so many shitty jobs in my life. If I had to pick a primetime drama, I am going into the deep, dark world of college orientation tour guide.
Yes! Yes!
People don't know that helping prospective students and parents at their college orientations and college tours has a seedy underbelly. But in my 2-hour-long HBO miniseries...
From the twisted minds that brought you Greek.
So is it every episode is 2 hours, or is it 4 30-minute episodes?
Oh, no, for the love of God. We've got 4 30-minute episodes if we're lucky.
Just making sure.
How about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I was thinking about this a decent amount, and you know, as much as I want to make the gritty version of Clerks, but based off of my high school's convenience store that I worked at, I'd rather actually make the gritty version of working at a Globo gym at the front desk, because there's a lot of wild shit that happens at Globo gyms, whether it is, you know, steroid use or other drugs, having to work the night shift, which is terrifying. And that is all I will say about that. But yeah, that is probably an experience that I love to hate on, but also is one that built me to the man that I am today.
I love that. I have to go with the summer I worked at the third highest capacity Starbucks in the greater Chicago area, which I have to imagine number 1 has to be O'Hare, number 2 has to be Midway, and then this has to be number 3. Because, like, how many people are going to one individual Starbucks? So it's the base of the Merchandise Mart in River North in Chicago.
Yeah.
It's an extremely popular location. during the daytime, we were servicing about 200 to 250 people an hour, to the point where we had like Joe Flacco like headsets on, and we were like calling out drinks to each other down the line. We had episodes include when our manager stole tips from us for months. That was fun. Fuck you, dude. I do not remember your name, but fuck you to death. People going on smoke breaks and not coming back mid-shift. And whatever was happening at the classic rock radio station above us that came in, where the guy came in and ordered a 8-pump, 10-shot, half and half mocha every day before he went on the air, because I assumed he just did cocaine before that. And this was the lesser of two evils.
That's the Dan Campbell, the famous Detroit's Lions coach, who just like he'll throughout the day have like 6 espresso shots at a time.
That man has been he has been on the air nonstop through the 80s, 90s, and now.
Wait, so who is the basketball player that used to eat candy all the time? Is that Dwayne Wade?
Was it Dwight Howard who
I think it was Dwight Howard.
Dwight Howard had like a
candy
massive
urge?
Yeah, he had like a massive sweet tooth and would eat candy bars like before, during, and after games. And that is the combination of, was it, you said Brian Campbell or Dan Campbell?
Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell and Dan Campbell and Dwight Howard mixed together. Just do cocaine, people. If there's one thing to take away, we have one saying on this island.
No, we do not. We do not have that saying. We very
just
much
do cocaine.
Nope, that is not our saying. Well, Rich, thank you so much for your question of the week. Let's talk a little bit about North Shore, and we'll start off with a quick synopsis. Blitzy Jason Matthews is the efficient general manager of the Grand Waimea, a Hawaiian luxury hotel on Oahu, and certainly has a way with both the often demanding, spoiled customers and the understandably somewhat envious, dreamy staff. What in the world is going on with
Can I
that
ask
synopsis?
either of you to try to define what blitzy means? What does blitzy mean?
Well, you know, when you're lined up in on defense and you want to send an extra man to try to get the quarterback, that is called a blitz. So I feel like blitzy is a defense that often blitzes. Now, how that has to do with a person, no fucking idea.
All right, so I just Googled the word blitzy, looking up its definition. We got a few things. It could be an informal verb that means to keep doing something or sending something many times in a short period of time. It could also be slang for intoxicated by alcohol or drugs or extremely tired. Or, as Geoff said, a football play where defensemen rush toward the quarterback as soon as the ball is snapped.
None of these make sense for the... this is the first time I've ever had a problem with the log line of the show.
Well, Max, why don't you tell us a little bit more about how this show got made before
Today,
we dive into it?
We are talking about the pilot episode of North Shore, which aired on June 14th, 2004 on Fox. And we'll be talking about the show's creator, Peter Elkoff, a little bit. So coming off of the success of the OC's first season, Supernova, which also had a similar off-season summer launch 2003, Fox is looking to strike gold twice with another sexy primetime soap in a beach locale with a summer debut. And it's not just Fox looking to capitalize. The WB premieres Summerland just 2 weeks prior, and NBC is prepping their own high-stakes detective series aptly titled Hawaii. Enter Peter Elkoff, a young writer who at this point has one show under his belt. The drama First Wave, not about surfing, but about alien invaders and newly discovered Nostradamus prophecies. Eager to strike while the iron is hot, Fox orders North Shore to a 13-episode order off a 15-minute sizzle reel alone. Shot on location in Oahu with principal photography at the Turtle Bay Resort, North Shore cost a reported $2 million plus per episode, a massive commitment for an unknown property at that time. That should have been a sign of trouble in paradise, as Fox actually pulls the plug, canceling the show before it even airs. At some point between filming the pilot and June of 2004, the network goes back on its decision and airs the drama anyway, even giving it an additional 9-episode order, bringing season 1 to 22 episodes. Hoping to create a dynamic duo, that they shift the show's air date from Mondays to Thursdays, putting it in a block back-to-back with season 2 of The OC. Would all these changes be enough to ride a wave of success, or the North Shore wipe out on today's episode?
Should we give it away? They don't.
Well, we'll talk
we
about
had
it
to watch this on YouTube. That's how you know.
Let's sort of treat this like detectives, right? Let's talk about this pilot, maybe see
Let's break down the crime scene.
Went wrong and what went wrong on our computer screens as just as a heads up for folks who are trying to find this pilot. Maybe you like to watch before you listen. You can find this on YouTube. You can find multiple accounts on YouTube who have listed and put up this pilot because Fox definitely doesn't want to have much to do with it, nor any interest of publicizing it on any of their platforms.
And this is a time in 2004 where the primetime soap was hitting like the stratosphere. You know, I said they put it in a block with season 2 of the OC. Well, season 1 of the OC is 27 episodes and wrapped on May 5th, 2004. They took a 3-week break and then went to production on season 2 of that show.
Whoa.
It's also the same time that ABC is dropping Desperate Housewives. The primetime soap is the moment in 2004. Every network is trying to get on this genre. And we've talked about those first 2 shows I listed. We like them both a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to get to the bottom today of what happened at North Shore that missed the mark of those other 2 shows that are TVPL classics from our early days.
Yeah, and let's just dive in with how this show starts.
Let's paddle out, actually, Geoff.
Oh, well, we don't do paddling until the end of the pilot, but let's talk about the beginning because we start off our show meeting this Jason Matthews, but hearing how he starts his day with the surf report from the local radio as he is driving in, and also Jason has a bitchin'. His car is absolutely amazing.
Oh yeah,
I absolutely love his ride.
They spent all their money on cars.
This pilot could have gone a lot differently had something gone wrong with the helicopter that was flying dangerously close to his car, while also probably, and if we had to guess, carrying guests. But
yeah, was that like a Top Gun nod? Like, what was that?
I don't know, because this show also, I think, had the record for us of showing the credits as quickly as it possibly could, or showing that title card of just like, it's North Shore, cool, we're done, no music, no nothing, we're at the hotel.
We also get this tracking shot of Jason driving his real sweet, like, doorless SUV to work, and it's that exact same overhead cruising down the coast shot they do in the pilot of the OC as well. They are just trying so hard to visually get you into this world with the exact same trick they did a year ago.
So this show I have written down in my notes is ChatGPT. If you told ChatGPT what White Lotus was about, but then you were like, we only have a budget of $5, because that is what I felt the entire beginning of this pilot.
Yeah.
When we're at a pool and our first big issue of why is this day any different than any other day is a 15-year-old wants to have sex with a 21-year-old lifeguard. And I said, holy shit, I'm in. Let's buckle up and see what the fuck is about to happen.
Boy, if you thought that was going to be the entirety of how far they take that plot, and then the answer being no, and then they okay, all right, 30 seconds of one page, that's fine. No, they continue on with that one story for the entirety of the pilot. It is the B plot of the whole pilot.
So to our listeners at home, yes, in advance, the B plot of this pilot does involve a 15-year-old trying to seduce the hottie lifeguard while she's on vacation with her single mom, who is also hunting for dates or a companion or something or other. Does it help sell this show if the 15-year-old is played by Leighton Meester? Does that do anything?
I was about to say,
no.
If you're thinking, sometimes we talk about shows and we're like, holy shit, look at the cast and where they went. There are going to be 2 extremely recognizable faces if you just got into pop culture from 2010 to 2020. But there's also some names of the time that pop up in this pilot where you're like, oh, that guy or that chick or
I will
like
say,
something like that.
There are 4 recognizable names if you're also a fan
Of white chicks?
Late 90s, early 2000s HBO comedies about 4 women at a certain city, or if you're a fan of the Game Show Network.
There's also there is a TVPL alum in this pilot, 3-time TVPL alum. Can't wait to talk about their brief appearance on this pilot as well. But like it's interesting using this family of the mom and daughter and Gabriel then finding out and the audience finding out she's 15 to then introduce us to more of our main staff members, right?
Yeah.
And it's an interest, like we have MJ who works at the bar, and then we have another recognizable face of our bartender Frankie, played by a very, very skinny Jason Momoa that I am worried about throughout this entirety
a
of
very
this pilot.
skinny and untattooed Jason Momoa. He was like, I love that he was like, I'm saving up until I get one role, and then I'm just getting inked out.
And at this point, they're probably ecstatic. Like, we got the guy from the Baywatch reboot to be in our sexy Hawaiian hotel drama. Like, we did it. This is our big get.
And like, it's interesting how many characters they want us to meet immediately, right? Like, and also you don't get a clear understanding of who's going to be here for a while. Who is, yeah, sure, we understand the stakes of this is a hotel where the average stay costs $130,000, which I have written down in big, big notes as like, one, how does a stay at a hotel cost $130,000? But 2, one of the things I think is a problem with this, as opposed to like the OC and Desperate Housewives, and it's the first thing I have marked down as a problem, is I don't know who to give a shit about from the beginning of this pilot. I know Jason's important because he works at the hotel and he's like, and it seems like he has a big
and he's
job.
Aquaman.
Not that Jason, other Jason.
Oh, other Jason. Okay, right.
And then I know that Frankie seems to be important. MJ seems to be important. Is Leighton Meester important? Is her mom important? Is this owner that we come to meet important? And then we just meet this woman named Nicole who seems to be important, but we don't know why. And it's a lot of stuff all at once without really establishing who are our main 5. Who are the people we give a shit about day in and day out.
Geoff, I want to piggyback off that really quick. So you bring up a really good point. This show has a lot of plot lines to it. There's a lot of threads that we follow as we build out our world. And I think its biggest problem, I'm just going to say it out here like immediately in the open, is that all of the plot lines and ways that we get to know our main characters, all of these threads we follow and arcs we have, are all contingent on people who are going to leave immediately. We're building plot points around people who aren't going to stay for a long time. There's a finality to all of these VIP guests that we deal with at the resort. There's a sense of we're on to the next thing each week instead of building a world amongst its main cast. And White Lotus has the benefit of being like 6 episodes. So you can center a plot on a guest and you can drag it out because there is an end and it's a short, like self-contained story. Whereas this, you want to be pitching us on something that could go for 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 episodes. And when I'm being introduced to everyone via people who are leaving, it's hard to make those connections.
And that's such a great point, both of you. And I do believe we also, so there's the off the bat, just the issue with the lifeguard and the 15-year-old who is like being way too aggressive and stuff like that. There's this book about screenwriting called Save the Cat, which is where you essentially create like a small altruism thing for the main character to do to like, you know, have so people understand that they are a good guy, basically. It's just like a thing that will crop up in just about everything you say. It feels like they tried to copy and paste something like a shitty example from that book to this one scene. And like you said, like there's no reason for me to believe from the first like 20 minutes of this pilot that Leighton Meester is not going to stay on this cast.
Yeah.
There's no reason for, like, she shouldn't. I don't know basically anything about this cast, even 30 minutes into this pilot, except for two of them used to date and it ended poorly. And that's it. There's no other like wants, there's no needs, there's no like dramatic backstory. Like you don't really leave the pilot at all knowing a lot about anybody.
Well, we are about to get into some dramatic backstory in their next introduction, but I think what we're setting up here, I think what we're all kind of getting at is that they make the stakes of this show so high and they center it around all these VIPs and all their requests and all their needs. And I almost feel like the stakes need to be lower. This needs to be a show about the hotel and not about the external. The two best characters in this pilot. And if you want to go seek out North Shore and you want to watch it, the reason why you should watch it is Jason Momoa as Frankie and Nikki DeLoach as MJ, the two bartenders. They get the best lines of dialogue in this pilot. Jason Momoa is downright funny in this thing. They are the most engaging characters when they're supporting other people. And this needs to be a show. And you could have this character of Jason as like the GM kind of overseeing things. But we're going to get to some other characters that kind of blow this into a new world. And I think takes it in a direction that's almost too big for its britches.
Did you guys want to see more of why people were going to spend so much money at this island?
No.
Or this resort? For me, it led to like, they did like the tell don't show thing of explaining like, you know, oh, we have like dignitaries from everywhere. We have professional athletes and musicians and entertainers and all that kinds of shit. Like, the explanation of it was not enough for me to believe like, oh yeah, we're going to only deal with the upper crust. This is going to be like a miraculous type of like excursion for people. It just like, it felt so $500 a night when they were explaining otherwise. It was just like so weird for me that they did that.
Let's talk about that a little bit more, because all of our explanation about how grand this hotel was and like how much the guests were spending and that sort of issue was done really, really haphazardly, right?
Yeah.
We have the owner of the hotel, Mr. Colville, who Max mentioned you might recognize from Sex and the City. And
he plays the same character. So
it's basically the same exact guy.
On Sex and the City, he plays this major character in seasons 4 and 5 named Richard, who owns this hotel that Samantha becomes the publicist for and later has this real torrid relationship with. And Richard can't commit because he can't stop fucking younger women. And they were like, listen, James Remar, who plays the character, they get him on the phone. It's like, listen, we got a gig for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You play another suave hotel owner who fucks a lot of hot women. I'm sorry. I know you want to get away from it, but they saw you. They're like, suave, rich hotel owner who fucks a lot of women. What do you say?
He's been wanting to do Cat on a Hot Tub Roof on stage for so long, but they just keep making him fuck hot women on camera. What a hell this guy lives in.
Oh my God. But he's talking to this woman that we automatically see our protagonist of Jason have a very strong reaction to seeing. And that is this woman named Nicole that we instantly, as the audience, are supposed to understand. There's some form of chemistry and some form of history behind them, but we don't have time to even talk about it because we have a big guest, big deal coming in. And that is like, one of the things that this show does is like, instead of a case of the week, they have the guest of the week. Mm-hmm. It very much appears like that's
it's Fantasy Island.
Yeah, they pitched it as like, who is going to be our person who is going to be the main star of this episode. And in this instance, we have one of the 2000s it girls of Brittany Daniel playing a tennis player of Carrie Lane, who like instantly
of White Chicks fame.
Yeah, when I saw Brittany Daniel, I was like, holy shit. Yeah, this takes me back like in so many ways.
Okay, so I'm going to make an edit then. If you're watching this pilot and you're our age, there's 5 recognizable faces because I need to give a shout out to my personal favorite, Brooke Burns, who plays Nicole Booth. You may remember her from Baywatch, or if you're me, you remember as the host of The Chase on Game Show Network.
Hell yeah.
Wait. Okay, there's another one, and I'm sure you guys caught this too. But did you recognize that Babu from Seinfeld was in it?
Three-time TVPL alum Brian George plays Reja in this, and he is just in everything. He's slowly but surely, he is acquiring all the Infinity Stones of some of the worst TV shows that we have talked about on this podcast.
If you have a minute at some point, go to Brian George's IMDb, because I don't think there's a single person that we've covered on this show that has more credits than this man. This is one of the most prolific actors and voice actors in Hollywood, and has been since from 1985 to now. It is insane how many credits he has.
And after you're done meeting Rich's request, stay on IMDb and look up Corey Sevier, who plays Gabriel, the lifeguard, because I don't think anyone's been in more made-for-TV Christmas movies than this man.
Rich, I have one moment marked in big text that I have to talk to you about.
Oh, please.
And that is when you saw yourself depicted on screen as the two dudes from Illinois who just said sayonara, Illinois, after jumping off of some bitchin' jet skis.
Oh, if you don't think I wrote down the line, I miss Chicago, Rush Street, the parties.
And then talking about their $300,000 bonuses, I was just like, I've met both of these men.
Buddy, 2005 castle. You can get a castle in Chicago for $300,000.
Has there ever been a more 2004 scene put onto film than riding jet skis to Simple Plan's Vacation playing in the background?
I'm just so excited that those two are about to experience the 2005 Chicago White Sox World Series. God, take me back. Take me back.
Life is going to be so good for them. The idea of the Chicago White Sox.
You have no idea. You have no idea how good your year's about to be.
Yeah, the idea of losing 20 straight games, unimaginable.
They're dead now.
Yeah.
They died. They drank themselves to death after the World Series.
The reason that I bring them up, though, is this is where those lines blur of the idea of what guests are here just for an episode and what guests are here for the entirety of the show. Because there's a guest, one of the guys, we see him, he potentially tries to assault Nicole in a later scene, which was really weirdly weird.
Crazy.
And out of place. But then the other guy is just oh, is he the love interest? Is he someone who's staying? It sounds like he's a guest, but is he a guest? Does he just have a ton of fucking money? That's one of the things that this show wants it both ways. They want to have staff and guest relationships. They want to have these cases of the week. Just in case you're curious about what the plot of this episode is, Jason has to take care of Carrie. Then we have the Reja's Lamborghini is in the wrong state, and they have to figure out how to paint it a different color. Lambo that they found a different color. And then Nicole and Jason are awkward. And then that's not even mentioning the underage potential scandal that we do dive into this episode. There's just way too much going on. And when you look at the OC, when you look at even Desperate Housewives, there's one main thing in each episode. And maybe there's some very, very small little jokes that we have going on, but we don't stray too much from the main thing. This show has ADD that even I find a little bit ridiculous.
And let's talk a little bit about the two comparisons you just made there too, Geoff, because Desperate Housewives has the benefit of having a narrator. So that is you get to know what's not even being seen in the dialogue. So that is that's an extremely important part of it. And then with the OC, you spend so much time with each person's family on separately that you get a lot better feeling of who these people are, some actual backstory, okay, here's why I love this character. Here's why this character is going to have a redemption moment. Here's why this character is going to disappoint. It's very obvious what the needs and wants are of each person. And the only thing that we get from this group of people on North Shore is backstory that felt like Days of Our Lives. It just wasn't there. It felt like every character could be easily replaceable, if you know what I mean.
I mean, I don't want to dive too much into each of these plot points too deeply, because if you want to watch this, yeah, this
why do we
very
have to spend more time?
We are just treading water, very much in the kiddie pool of diving into some very deep topics.
Right.
I'm curious if there were any moments that like stood out before we get to the end of this pilot that you wanted to like dive into a little bit.
I mean, obviously the Jason Momoa giving the "we have a saying here on the island" line, because I'm like, if that's not in every single script until the show is over, I will be thoroughly disappointed. I was going to save this for wait a minute moments, but why is the entire cast white? I'm sorry, but like the entire cast except for Jason Momoa is white. And it's like the least believable Hawaiian experience that you can imagine. And like the only time that they deal with other non-white people is at like the car detailing place. That's it. Like even in the bar where the employees go to drink, where it's kind of like a locals only bar, even that scene is white. So I'm like, did you guys just film this in Burbank? Like, is this all just shot in Los Angeles and you like didn't care?
It's filmed on location.
Yeah,
it is filmed at a resort in Oahu.
Hawaiians, Jesus.
Max, what about you? Were there any of the B plots that you wanted to discuss in more depth? Anything that you were like, ooh, let's dive into this little piece and like see if this also is a clue of why this show maybe didn't succeed?
So I guess we should probably talk a little bit about our protagonist, Jason, played by Kristoffer Polaha, because we haven't really talked about him much more than like he's kind of the guy we see doing everything here. He has a surf philosopher father played by Michael Ontkean from Slapshot. So again, if you're tuned into this and we're just going to keep trying to sell you on the show, we got one of the leads of Slapshot in here. There's a great line from MJ talking about him breaking up with Nicole and why it never worked, where she says, your dad makes surfboards, her dad makes millions. I don't know what that means, but it's delightful. Basically, him and Nicole worked at a resort together in Hawaii. She took a job in New York, and 2 years ago, she left him to move to New York and broke his heart. Now she's come back. She claims that she doesn't know he works in this hotel. Drama's going to ensue. Will they, won't they? Jason gets the most melodramatic line of this entire pilot. Let me keep Oahu and you could have the rest of the world. I love that shit.
Yeah. See, that's the Chino moment from the OC. That's the welcome to the OC bitch line. If you had to have one for
or
this
they wanted
pilot.
it to be.
Yeah, and boy, was it not.
So, Rich, I do have this marked down that Jason's dad is a character that's missing from John from Cincinnati, just going to say that, because he was an entirely different tone than anyone else in this pilot.
John from Cincinnati is only that character.
Yeah, exactly. That is why I'm saying he somehow ended up in Hawaii rather than being in California.
Oh, God.
I mean, the show wants to... Some of the topics that we have, like, yeah, every plot can't be a serious one, right? Like the one about painting the Lambo and how suddenly Nicole is just really good at throwing dice was a scene that I did not have marked down on my bingo card, but you know, it was just out of fucking nowhere.
But that's the thing, is I love that. I love them going to Frankie's cousin's body shop on the islands, and for them to do the rush job and agree to do it, she has to beat his cousin in dice, and it's so out of character, and it's so silly. And that's what I'm trying to get at, is that if we lowered the stakes of this show, and if we made it about this ensemble of people who work at this hotel, and we just lighten up a little bit,
right,
there's something here. But it's trying to be Dynasty. It's trying to be Knots Landing, and it doesn't have like the heart or the humor of Desperate Housewives of the OC. It is so serious, and it just needs to like paddle out and ride some waves, man.
Which, that's how we end our pilot is Jason goes surfing for the first time in a long time with his philosophical surfing dad,
Right.
and that is how this pilot ends. I guess let's talk about things that we loved about this pilot. And Rich, you sort of talked about it a little bit, and Max, you did as well. And I want to shine a light on Jason Momoa in this pilot because it was my favorite performance that we got by far.
Yeah.
And like, it, for there are there's something magical about Jason Momoa where like he hasn't been so desaturated as another very large figure that we know based off of a certain mineral that you see in every single movie. But he brings a sort of joy to his acting when he is enjoying a role that is just contagious, right? And I sort of point to like the first Aquaman movie. I absolutely loved him in it because he was like, this is going to be just schlock and I'm going to have the most fun. When he was in the most recent Fast and Furious movie, I was like, holy shit, my guy is having the best time ever. And he does not care. And you can tell in this, he's having the best time playing this role amongst a lot of people who you feel from the moment they step on screen, they do not want to be there. And there are too many of these shows where the casts are melding together for this to be the case. What about y'all? What were some things that you loved about this pilot? And no, you cannot say Turtle Bay Cove or Turtle Cove Bay Hotel.
I think it's just reiterating on when this show remembers to have fun.
Right.
There's some really great moments. I didn't even mention when they peel out of the body shop in that fiery red Lambo to the weirdest early 2000s pop punk cover of Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting by Elton John. Like, that's really fun.
That was cool.
When MJ and Frankie are peering their heads through the window of the beach bar the entire staff goes to after work to try to creep on what's happening between Nicole and Jason, that's fun. Even the wildly dated Jason and Carrie Lane C plot of them going on a date, they make out in the pool. There's paparazzi photographs of him making out with this tennis star, and it turns out that they were staged to cover up the fact that she's queer and has a same-sex partner and is going to lose sponsorships. Like, yes, that is a wildly dated plot. But when the reveal comes in and then Jason gets to like tackle a paparazzi trying to creep on her and her partner protects her, the stakes are low enough and the world of how we got here is silly enough that it works with this show. When it lightens up, it's good. When it's these silly characters, it's fun. But there's a lot of stuff here, and I'll get into it, that is not fun, and it really takes the wind out of the show's sails.
Rich, what about yourself? Were there things that you loved about this?
That's super dead on. I think both of you guys actually captured both of the things I liked about this pilot. I was gonna bring up the I don't know, E plot, the F plot. I don't even know at this point about.
Keep going. Keep digging.
Z plot.
The Z plot.
AA plot. The alpha plot.
That particular plot about the paparazzi and the tennis star who's like, you know, I guess this is had Billie Jean King or Martina Navratilova come out at that point. Is Billie Jean King gay? I actually don't even know. Anyways,
let Rich struggle with this one. Just Max, don't respond.
Anywho, Martina Navratilova. I don't know if she had come out at this point, but like I thought that particular point about like him doing what he needed to do to protect the guests of it was the closest we got to actually seeing. If someone's going to tell me that a hotel is established in the plot as $130,000 a night hotel, it better look like the island from Glass Onion. It has to be. It has to be crazy. It has to be something otherworldly. Because I just like while we were sitting here, like I googled like the Grand Wailea Hotel, like it's now owned by Hilton, $900 a night. It's not a crazy experience, but it's like it just needs to have that much closer of we're gonna do anything for these people, including tackling a paparazzi guy and throwing away, like, to do that. And that was like the only moment that I saw of them, that plus the Lambo scene of like going over the top for guests.
Well, Max, you brought it up a little bit earlier, but what were some of the wait a minute moments, the moments that caused you pause during this pilot that you wanted to discuss?
We have to address the Veronica Gabriel storyline.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
what I want to address specifically is just like beyond the content, what a disservice it is to its characters. The way they talk about statutory, the way the cast talks about it is incredibly outdated and distasteful. But it's a disservice to introduce one of your leads through this plot line. I think if we're supposed to like and support Gabriel, to put him in this situation and his only redeeming thing is that like he didn't actually do it. But even more so, the fact that this gets resolved by Nicole sitting down Veronica in their hotel room as they're getting ready to check out and explaining this story about how when she was a little girl, she did ballet and her dad was absent and not at her recitals. And she knows what it's like to feel overlooked and kind of encourages her to...
Oh, her Mariska Hargitay moment?
To tell the truth to the staff about how Gabriel didn't actually like get her drunk and assault her. So the entire thing, the entire plot, all this that we did was just kind of thrown away to give you the tiniest little backstory piece of information on Nicole even. And I just feel like it wasn't necessary to the pilot. It didn't build my world at all. The fact that we kind of threw it all away at the very end just to reveal a little bit of supporting evidence about an entirely different character that I don't think that made much of a difference.
Yeah.
It just, the content made me feel icky. The way it was resolved made me feel icky. I don't think it was warranted. And I think it really drags down this entire pilot.
No, I think it like, I 100% agree. I think it was like them getting a note of like, raise the stakes a little bit, make it a little bit more drama. Like it feels like almost added in after the fact. Like to your point.
Yeah. Rich, do you have any other wait a minute moments?
Well, so I know it's shot on location and everything. But if you ever had a question of whether or not they were in Hawaii, don't worry. Every 3 minutes they have to say, "Oh, that's what it's like here in Hawaii. That's what it's like." Don't forget. We're in where are they? Oahu or
Oahu?
Yeah, Oahu.
Oahu. So that one was obviously hilarious for me. But I mean, going back to, I guess my wait a minute moment is just like casting for 2004 in general. But like, it sucks that no one could take the chance to hire some actual Hawaiian people for this, like except for Jason Momoa. He's Hawaiian, right? I didn't even look it up. Anyway, but it really took me out of it. I could not get behind any single character because they kept just introducing more and more and more white people. It was so weird that there was just no one actually Hawaiian in this.
Yeah.
So Jason Momoa is native Hawaiian, but his parents divorced shortly after birth, and he moved to Norwalk, Iowa, where he was raised.
What? Go Hawkeyes. We have a saying here on the island. Go Hawkeyes.
I mean, I think we've talked about a lot of the stuff that happens, right? Like the thing that kept on happening during this pilot, and this is going to be the second week in a row we talk about the show that we've never talked about prior, is I kept on watching it and being like, I wish I was watching Las Vegas. I wish I was like, and that is what I was thinking, because I think that this show, even though we said like, hey, it was on the coattails of these other shows, I just kept on thinking, oh, this is Las Vegas on the beach. Like that is what this show wants to be. And it, at the same time, that show knows the tone, that show's in on the joke. And this show wants to be so many things, and it ends up being nothing all at the same time. We do have one more question, and it is our in-flight question. Our in-flight question came from Instagram this week, and it says, this show has two surprising appearances, Leighton Meester And
Only
Jason
two.
Momoa. What's an early career appearance from an actor that you really enjoy seeing from time to time? Now, I am going to limit this to just television appearances. So
Right.
maybe it is a one-off, this was the first thing they ever did sort of thing. But I want to hear from you two, gentlemen. What is that early TV appearance that always sparks a little joy?
First off, the fact that we got more than one question submitted to us for North Shore is nothing short of a
Super
miracle
impressive.
itself. Thank you to anyone who looked it up on IMDb when we said we were doing this, because I don't think you watched it.
Leighton Meester actually hasn't missed an episode of TVPL.
I have a soft spot for any comedian who popped up as a boyfriend of the week on Sex and the City before they blew up. And my favorite example of these is season 2, when Will Arnett plays a boyfriend to Miranda, who she meets in the history section of a bookshop, and he has a fetish for sex in public places that culminates with him getting off having sex in his mom's house while she's there and like yelling at them. It is wildly bizarre. This is a couple of years before Arrested Development. He's in his like mid to late 20s at this point. And it is so funny to see him as the flavor of the week. It's a delightful appearance. Season 2 of Sex and the City. Go and find it. It's so much fun. Will Arnett's my answer.
Rich, what about yourself?
I gotta go with anything from the heyday of NBC's Must See Thursdays shows. Any guest star that was on, that did a one-off on Will and Grace, on Friends. It crosses over to Seinfeld, because Seinfeld had the opposite, where the girlfriend of the week, basically. And you get some insanely big actors on the Seinfeld girlfriends aspect. But yeah, I would say anything that I didn't have like an exact answer for this. Like if I had to go like old school with it, I would probably say like a young Robin Williams on like Happy Days or Mork and Mindy and stuff like that. But if I'm going like overall, I'm going those 90s sitcoms. That was like 100% made me feel good.
I have two, and I'll give you an additional answer to that Seinfeld one that you said, Rich, because sometimes you had a few stand-up comedians or people who were trying to become stand-up comedians who showed up on Seinfeld as well. And I always laugh when I see Patton Oswalt in the couch episode of and it's not even because it was a big role. It was more so because reading about his experience on in his book Silver Screen Fiend, he talks about that so lovingly, about like how everyone around him was like, "Oh, so you're like a millionaire, right?" And he was just like, "No, I can't eat. Like I am so broke right now."
I made $75 that day.
Yeah,
he's a Blockbuster employee with 3 lines.
Yeah, I think he like made $150. He was like, "I still can't afford rent," and I was just on Seinfeld. The other one, though, is one that it was someone who was young in their career and got their first big shot. And it's Leonardo DiCaprio on Growing Pains. I just very fondly remember watching Growing Pains as a kid and seeing Leonardo DiCaprio. And then when Titanic was coming out, I was like, oh, I want to see it. Keep in mind, I was like 9. And my parents were like, nope. You don't get to see that version of Leo yet.
Is it rated R? Is Titanic rated R?
Well, it's not so much that it's rated R as much as, you know, there's a certain scene where someone's drawing another person, and, you know, parents, it was the 90s.
Whatever.
It's a very different time now. Drawing's fun, but I want to thank you for that in-flight question. Let's talk a little bit about the history of the show, and to give a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. Rich was a little bit worried that we wouldn't have enough on the background of the show or the history of the show. So I'm really excited to talk about this in more depth. So there was 1 season of this show, and there were 21 aired episodes with 1 unaired episode.
Crazy. One unaired.
They didn't air the season finale in America.
Oh, no! They didn't. Okay, so you sat through an entire series. Let's say you're sitting home watching an entire, nearly half a year of North Shore, and you didn't get to see the finale? Why didn't they do that?
To give you an idea, this show started, I believe, I was looking it up earlier because I was so surprised, like reading through the history of the show, and sorry, I had it up. I'll edit this out really quickly. So to give you guys an idea, I was reading about the history of the show to get an idea of like what was the time period. First episode of the show debuted June 14th of 2004. The last one that was aired showed at the beginning of 2005. So we're talking about a total of 6+ months of this show just being a filler for Fox. As far as the rest of this history of the show, that's it. That's it. That's all. That is all. There was one season and 21 aired episodes. No, this show was not nominated for anything. No, you cannot find DVDs of this. No, it is not on a streaming network. Yes, these people all went on to have careers after this show. Writers, directors, behind the scenes folks, everyone had something to do. And yeah, that is it. If you want to watch the show, you can find it on YouTube, I think almost in its entirety.
If you feel bad they didn't get nominated for any Teen Choice Awards, don't. They had enough surfboards.
So dumb.
Well, Rich, it is your turn, and it is your time for Rich's Game of the Week.
So, as you can imagine, I started thinking about other shows that were bad follow-up shows to the original smash hit. So I wanted to go through a couple pretty crazy examples of some of those shows and talk about some of the flops that followed. So first question for you guys is, the show Running Wild debuted after a hit, but ultimately underappreciated comedy show on Fox. It featured the same showrunner and two of the original cast members, but it couldn't get off the ground. The original show is That 70s Show, Arrested Development, How I Met Your Mother, 30 Rock.
I'm going to say Arrested Development.
I was also going to say Arrested Development.
It is Arrested Development. Mitch Hurwitz made an absolute garbage fire with Will Arnett and David Cross in it.
And I watched that show.
Did you?
Yeah, I watched like 3
You watched
episodes
Running
of it.
Wild? Wow.
I watched 3 episodes of it because I love Will Arnett.
That's
Too
crazy.
much.
You should watch him in season 2 of Sex and the City.
You should really watch him in season 2 of Sex and the City. All right. After the massive success of Twin Peaks, creators David Lynch and Mark Frost had an immediate follow-up contract from ABC. They made an absurdist sitcom called On the Air. Despite the excitement about the pilot, ABC only aired how many of the episodes before it was canceled? 3, 5, 7, or 10?
I'm going to say 7.
Yeah, Max, I like that number. It's a lucky number, but sure, why not?
It is unlucky for both of you and unlucky for David Lynch because they made 7. They aired 3 of them. It was poorly received. And I will say the pilot is on TV Guide's list of top 100 episodes of TV, period.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, we're going to have to find out what happened.
I know. Yeah, we may have to do this in our later episode. I mean, people are going to be pissed if we do that before Twin Peaks, but
nope.
All right. After the success of Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan was obviously in crazy high demand. So when it became time to find the next project for a spinoff, obviously let me start over. After the success of Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan was obviously in crazy high demand. So when it became time to find the next project, the obvious spinoff was Better Call Saul, and that was picked up. But he also got another show picked up, and it was a D- CBS detective drama set in southern Michigan. Can you name the show?
Was that Battle Creek?
It is Battle Creek.
Shut up!
That is so impressive.
Shut up! Shut the front door.
and it stars the guy who plays Dennis on 30 Rock.
Hold on. You're telling me that Vince Gilligan tried to do for Dean Winters what he did for Bryan Cranston?
Well,
you've never watched an episode?
I mean, he didn't like it. This was not a benevolent act. I think this is like a shitty sitcom. Like it's not like he was putting Bryan Cranston. It's not like he was putting Dean Winters in Breaking Bad.
Dean Winters, another fantastic boyfriend of the week from Sex and the City. And you're telling me that there's a show
terrible
from
boyfriend of the week from 30 Rock.
From him and Vince Gilligan that I have not seen?
Yeah.
Where can I find it?
I think most people haven't seen it. And if it was on CBS, it's probably on Paramount Plus, I think.
Does Battle Creek have anything to do with Kellogg's in Battle Creek, Michigan?
Jeff, does it?
Oh, God, I don't know. That's
Does it have to do with cereal? Yes or no, Jeff?
No,
Serial
I don't
killers.
think it does. There you go. Oh, my God.
Well, that is all 3 questions I have for you guys. But Jeff, truly shocked that you knew Battle Creek.
I'm shocked I did too, in all honesty.
Truly
Pure
shocked.
Michigan really making an effect on me.
He lived in Michigan for a couple years. He was just trying to think of a city.
Well, Rich, thank you for that game of the week.
Oh, yeah.
As our flight comes to a land, I have 2 questions for you, gentlemen. I'm really curious to see what your answers are, but the first one is based off of the pilot. Are you gonna give episode 2 a chance? It's on YouTube. I just looked it up, and I'm sure that they are looking for the views. The second one is a little bit of a different question, in the sense that, Max, you sort of brought it up. Like, there were a ton of these types of shows in the early 2000s, and it was a hit in the early 2000s. I'm not saying bring back North Shore, because I think White Lotus sort of fits that space of the dramatic hotel.
Don't take away things from White Lotus,
No,
because there's no way they're even in the same atmosphere.
I'm just gonna leave that out there. But what I am going to ask is, do you think we have space for this, prime time soap operas within television right now? Because this did feel almost like a time capsule watching it. It felt very dated in that sense. Do we have that attention span to watch something like this now? So, Max, let's start off with you for a change.
I'm going to say no. Do I want to keep watching this? It's all sizzle, no steak. It's trying to do so many things, and it just doesn't hit it for me. I think the primetime soap has just kind of run its course. And you talk about shows like this specifically. I know we keep mentioning White Lotus, but there's also a lot of other flop versions similar to this. You had Magic City at Stars, which was like mid-century Miami luxury hotels. You had Grand Hotel on ABC, just modern luxury hotel in Miami. They all take place in Miami for some reason.
Grand Budapest Hotel, which
the best exotic Marigold Hotel, also in Miami.
Hotel California.
But none of these shows have worked, and I think that the primetime soap had a fun revival in the early 2000s when there was nostalgia for the mid to late 80s, and I don't think the nostalgia factor that made those shows successful works in 2024. So I think that we had this boom for a little bit for a couple of years, but we moved on to the next thing, and let's just let it be that we have a saying on the island.
What's dead is dead. Rich, what about you?
So I'm actually going to shock you both right now. No, I'm not watching another episode.
Oh, I thought you were going to give me a shocker, and I was going to...
I'm going to shock you both right now.
Both right now.
No, absolutely not. I just I can't I can't see, with the infinite reaches of all the streaming platforms at the tip of my fingers right now. I can't imagine spending another minute thinking about this fucking show. But also, again, you are competing for such like crazy amounts of attention right now when you're making a TV show. Like, reality TV is in its infancy when this came out. They're probably dealing with a lot of eyeballs still on TV and cable and things like that in 2004. You just don't have that now. Now you're competing with TikTok. Now you're competing with like anything else that you could possibly watch. There's no way you should even remotely think about greenlighting this show unless it's going to air at 2 p.m. on CBS. Like, this is soaps are for daytime now. We're back to where they were.
Yeah, and for myself, I'm not watching more of this. Like, let me just get the dramatic pause out of the way. There's not a shot in hell I'm watching any more of this show. If I want to watch Jason Momoa, I'm going to rewatch Aquaman or Fast X or the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, because those are all things that I have in preferential order and very easily accessible to me. As far as does this sort of TV belong on TV right now, I think that one of the things that we benefited from in the early 2000s is we had so much of it available that we now have it available to us now, which is awesome. Like, it has already been done so well that if I'm a TV executive and someone brings a primetime soap my way, I'm going to be like, cool, we have Desperate Housewives. We don't need your shittier version of it. We have the OC. We don't need your shittier version of it. Like, there's just such amazing TV out there that can draw my attention that I'd rather watch older classics than see something like this that's just that poorly done. And I hope that this is potentially, and it seems like it was a lesson for Fox, because they made some different choices along the way in the 20 years since this show debuted. Well, gentlemen, that is our flight. And as our plane has come to a land, before
I can't believe we talked about it for a whole hour. That's crazy.
Let's let folks know where you are and where they can find you. Rich, where can folks find you?
We have a saying here on the island. You can find me on Instagram at Damn That's Rich. You can find original sketch comedy from Max and myself at Dadwagon Comedy over on TikTok.
Max?
You can catch me doing cannonballs into the Grand Waimea pool, and you can find me on all things social media at Maxwell Singh.
And you can catch me just hanging on jet skis with dudes from Illinois. But if you're looking for me on social media,
Summer 2025.
You can find me at Run Jeff Run. If you're looking for the TV Pilot's License, you can find us anywhere that you listen to podcasts. You can also watch our smiling faces on YouTube and find us on social media at TV Pilots License. If you have questions about the show or for our next episode, you can always shoot us an email at tvpilotslicense@gmail.com or give us a call at 213-290-1713. Make sure to watch out for sneak previews of some of the stuff that we have coming up. Maybe you have an in-flight question based off of some of the stuff that is coming up. But with the plane landed and the seatbelt sign off, we look forward to flying the bright skies of the TV world with you again soon. And until then,
we have a saying here on the island. Bye.